So here's some news articles. So I was interested, I did not know this. In the 1930s, in the Great Depression, just like Trump has promised, they decided that there weren't enough jobs for Americans, so they decided to deport Mexicans, and what they did was just sweep them up, and half of them were in fact legal citizens, but they just didn't care. They just swept them up and said, you guys all have to get out of here, completely against the law and everything, but they just rounded them up and shipped them to Mexico. Many of them had never been to Mexico, didn't know what to do. It was, we can expect all this to happen in 45 days again, unless Trump just doesn't do it. But he certainly promised to do it, and I don't expect it to be pretty much the same thing. So a San Francisco tech startup is putting up these posters all over the place, and they're saying the quiet part out loud. They're saying our AI is excited to work 70 hours a week. Our AI won't join a union. Our AI won't ask for a raise. You can fire your people and have an AI instead, which is, what people have been saying that for about a year. And everyone that's tried to do that has found out that these AIs are not really the replacement for a human. And in fact, the only role they actually have for it is artisan sales for cold outbound. So it makes cold calls to try to sell your product, which I think that's essentially just the spam calls I already get, people calling me to try to trick me into something with an automated system. So anyway, however, they are, saying the quiet part out loud, saying, AI will replace humans, fire all those nasty humans and hire an AI instead. I like the end of this article. They say this company was founded in 2023 and it has about 30 employees, but there's no word on how soon they're going to replace their employees by AI. Anyway, so I was amazed. South Korea is undergoing some kind of huge crisis. The president declared martial law. I don't know. Well, what he said is that North Korean agents have infiltrated parliament and they're blocking all of his initiatives and refusing to fund things, which is, by the way, what happened here last time the Republicans were a majority. They refused to fund the government. There was a government shutdown. We don't regard that as external agencies. We do that to ourselves. But he said it's North Korean agents, so instead I'm going to just declare martial law and take over so all the other branches of government don't exist so I can do things. And then a few hours later, he rescinded it. Because what happened is they pushed through the police and got into the parliament building where they were not supposed to get, and they passed an ordinance to stop him.
Okay, because what I read was just a protest, a public protest, and they said they were sympathizer of North Koreans. Okay, but again, the casus belli, what's the reason?
I know, and I never quite get, but he is being investigated for corruption, and he wants to stop that investigation, just like Trump, just like Netanyahu in Israel. All these people, if they lose power, they'll go to jail. So
the president is a conservative. From the conservatives.
But apparently he's under investigation, and that's another reason why he wants to suspend all the other branches of government so he can't be investigated. Anyway, but it's hard to tell who's right and wrong. But claiming that North Koreans have infiltrated it seems a little unlikely, but what do I know? Anyway, and the thing is, the Americans say they didn't get any warning at all. And South Korea is a close ally. They said, we probably should have known that some disaster is happening in the government there, but we didn't. And maybe it's over now. He's undeclared martial law. So, but I don't think that makes things normal. I mean, I would think after this, they'll have an election and vote of no confidence and push him out or whatever you have to do over there. But I don't know. I'd expect more trouble. Seems to me like this is not the resolution of the problem.
As an aside, I don't know if you read about what is happening in Romania. The party that is Philo Putin won the election, and now the Democratic part, I don't want to say party, but the Democratic Party is sort of replicating January 6th that we had here.
Oh, so they're like invading and shutting down the government to protest what they call as an unfair election?
There is the lady who claims that the electoral results were a sham.
And was it? I mean, do the international observers think the election was corrupt or not?
But Romania, as far as I know, didn't need any more, the international observers.
Well, usually they're like international groups that can pretty much tell you whether the election was in fact fraudulent or not. Independent third-party groups. Sometimes they say,
At this point, it's such a mess. Oh gosh, it's so chaotic. I mean, I never expected that Germany was going to be in crisis, such a severe crisis. Now they're going to elections. France
too. The French government is falling also. Yeah.
The most stable country in Europe now is Italy, which is
yeah.
never heard of.
Yeah. Well, we sort of take turns, yeah. Anyway, all right, so Cloudflare is now hosting websites, which is interesting. And if you're going to do that, you incur an obligation to not host malware, and they're not doing that. They're hosting phishing pages, and it's going up by a lot, like doubling since last year, or tripling since last year. And this is because if you host it on Cloudflare, it's generally trusted. So your antivirus will not flag domains there. But if they keep on hosting malware, they're going to stop being trusted, I think. So
But has it always been this way? Because sometimes you go on some website and you see Cloudflare wants to check if you're a robot.
yeah, but that's what I use. But Cloudflare never used to host anything. They're just a proxy. So you just go through them to the server. And I didn't know they were hosting. This is a new thing, Cloudflare Pages. And apparently, they're not being careful enough to clean it up.
Because this is also an insurance for not losing your data, I mean, whatever you have posted. Now,
Well, yeah, you have to have another copy somewhere. Yeah, and I don't know exactly what features they have. I know my web hosting provider has backups and images and stuff. And I don't know, it's first I knew about Cloudflare Pages. I don't know what they offer. I see some comments here. They may be stochastic parrots, but they're really good stochastic parrots about the AIs. That's what they are, yeah. What happened to Israel after Netanyahu tried to consolidate power? That's right, the same thing happened, right? Anyway, so there's also Cloudflare workers, which are agentless, serverless agents you can run, and those can also be used for malware, and they are also being used for malware. So anyway, clearly Cloudflare needs to implement some protections, or they're going to lose their trusted status. Someone wants to be abroad for part of next semester. If you're taking my classes, it shouldn't be any problem. You might not be able to access my website if you go to mainland China. That's the only place I know that would block it. But if you're out of class for a while, and okay, after the news, I'll show you how to see your grade. You can totally see it. Anyway, so this is a funny one. Now, America has been blocking China's access to advanced chips. They can't get the fastest, most advanced chips for AI or any other purpose. We've been doing that for more than a year. So China is finally pushing back. They're telling their locals to quit buying American chips because they're not safe, which they haven't explained. But I would say you don't want to use them because they'll probably get blocked and embargoed and you won't be able to replace them. And they've also decided to block shipment of minerals that we normally get from them. But it turns out that the minerals, they haven't been shipping them all year anyway. So apparently we're living without it. But anyway, there's several minerals that are used in chips that they're not allowed to export from China. So the trade war continues.
But what we usually read that seems to be just a trade war actually has some political motivations, because there is a report that came out I would say probably a year or so ago, subscribed by the Department of State, the Department of Defense, and other departments. So basically they were saying the gist of this report was we cannot have a war as we had in the 20th century. So now the new type of war, China is the enemy, but we cannot go to war with China. So the type of war we have to engage is a technological warfare. And so the strategy is to dismantle, to create breaks in the technological pipelines. And the chips are is one component.
That's right. They're doing it so we will stay ahead in AI, right?
And so this report was saying that so far the US is 25 years ahead of China, and it's not enough. They want to get...
Yeah, and I don't know if we're really that far ahead. China's getting pretty advanced stuff. They're ahead of us on robot cars, for example. And I wonder if they're...
Another interesting thing that this report said was that the main goal of China is to link the advancement in AI and technology with military. It's not the commercial goal, the first one, it's military.
Well, yeah, and I don't quite know where they are in that.
I have to, if you're interested, I think I can get that report.
Yeah, I think China doesn't have much of a fleet right now of like aircraft carriers and stuff. That's one area where they're behind. But,
And again, as an aside, there was a month and a half ago, Xi Jinping had a meeting with of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, and he said something weird. He said that, Biden pushed me to war, but I resisted it. I resisted the provocation. And
So
this was given a little bit of ego on the European newspapers.
What was Biden trying to make him do?
Go to war with the US.
Yeah, well-
using Taiwan, of course. So
Well,
because
yeah.
what I think was referring to the period where we were reading that Chinese airplanes were flying over Taiwan, Chinese ships were approaching Taiwan too close. He was claiming that was a provocation from the US, but he resisted the provocation, so it was not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If I could just say something really quickly, Nancy Pelosi made that trip to Taiwan, and Biden asked her not to.
That's right.
And after that trip, that's when I noticed tensions with China really start to escalate.
Yeah, they said that would happen, and apparently that was true.
Yeah.
They seemed to take that as a really serious insult or something, yeah. So apparently, there's quartz countertops that are trendy, but the workers that make them end up inhaling a lot of silica and getting black lung. So they would need to have better conditions. They need to have saws to put water on them while you saw them, or wear masks or something, which they haven't been doing. And this apparently is fatal. You have to get quartz particles in your lungs. It's like asbestos. It ruins your lungs. The only cure is a lung transplant, and that only gives you a couple more years of life. So I need to be more careful on how they manufacture them. And this is the one I mentioned. China is banning export of critical minerals. Gallium, germanium, and something else, antimony. But the first two have already been blocked most of the year anyway. So we seem to be living without it. Antimony apparently is an issue, and they say if China's not shipping out antimony, everyone's going to have to dig and try to find more of it somewhere. Apparently it's hard to find. And apparently they're all needed for chips. So anyway, I'm going to stop the news, and let me